Welcome to the Crazy Ralph podcast. I'm Jason, and I'm joined with...
Your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete.
Awesome. As usual, we will be talking all things Friday the 13th. Make sure you follow us, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on wherever podcasts can be heard. We usually post, actually, we're pretty good for consistency. Every other Friday, you can hear us on YouTube and, like I said, wherever podcasts are heard. And then we also have a lot of shorter shows that we're throwing in there with some real fun content. We pride ourselves on doing fun stuff. We've seen the movies a billion times, just like you have, but you know, sometimes we gotta shake it up. And another cool thing about this show is that we really love to hear from people and their opinions. A lot of the content we throw up is very opinionated based, and we don't pretend to be the end all and be all of Friday the 13th. We just we're two fans, and we love to share our perspectives and our ideas, and we hope that you kind of banter back, and that's what will make this show a lot of fun. Am I right, Uncle Pete?
100%. We want, because you're gonna hear our opinions, our how we feel about certain actors, even across all these shows. We know each other's opinion. We want to hear you guys. What do you think is the best actor? Who do you think is the worst actor? Just whatever we're discussing, we want to hear feedback from you guys as far as what your topic is on, your opinion on the topic.
For sure. And the funny thing is Uncle Pete and I usually agree on quite a bit. Not that we want to, but we do. So definitely a different perspective is always welcome. Today is it's an essential show, I would say. We've talked about the many looks of Jason in prior podcasts. However, this one we go deeper. We go into the soul. We dig out the actors who have played Jason, and we analyze them. Or I don't know if we analyze them. We talk about them. We celebrate the men who put on the mask, and just, you know, like I said before, sometimes it was a great film, sometimes it wasn't, but Jason was always a constant. We always love him, and for the most part, I think we love a lot of the actors that have played him. A lot of them have embraced it, if not right away, over the years. And so looking forward to diving deep into the men who played Jason. So we're gonna, usually we start off in the past, like we've started off with in chronological order, but I'm gonna shake it up. I'm gonna shake it up on you, Uncle Pete. We're gonna start off with the man who's played him the most, Kane Hodder. Let's talk about this. So Kane Hodder first got the role of Jason in Friday the 13th Part 7 New Blood. That was 1988. And then went on to play him in Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason Goes to Space. He really did the tour. He did the Jason tour. They marketed it that way. He was on tour. And then a little bit of a heartbreak. We've talked about this before, where he was snubbed from playing Jason in the just anxiously awaited Freddy versus Jason. A mistake, was it? I mean, I think it was. We could talk about that a little bit later. But overall, Kane Hodder embodied the role of Jason. It came at the tail end of the 80s. Maybe the only knock on his timing in this franchise. And I know Pete's, you've definitely commented on that before, and we'll talk about it. But Kane was great in the sense that not only did he play Jason and got to play him multiple times, but man, he embraced the role, and in doing so, he made it okay for everybody else that was in a Friday the 13th fan to appreciate being in a Friday the 13th fan or a film. It wasn't a guilty secret that they were in these things. He made it cool to be Jason, to be in a Friday film. I personally believe that, but Yeah, I've kind of started the ball rolling with Kane. I know
Yep.
you probably have some things to say, but I'll throw it
Yeah,
to
like
you.
some of my notes, I put like he's the most connected actor is, to horror villain. Like, you got Robert Englund is Freddy, Nick Castle, Michael Myers, Doug Bradley, Pinhead, Brad Dourif, Chucky, Kane Hodder is Jason. You know,
Yeah,
one thing I like about the way he portrayed it, this Jason is not playing games. He's angry. But
yeah,
he's also like the way Kane, like he's having fun. He's calculating with his kills. He's just not slashing with machete. He's drowning you in sludge. He's punching your head off, killing you with the guitar. He's having fun with these kills. He's like,
yeah,
"Yep, I'm zombie now. I'm gonna have fun, and I'm just gonna go like." And one thing I love that Kane Hodder did was the head tilt. Wasn't excessive. He would just do a little head tilt,
yeah.
and to me, it's like a wolf looking at prey trapped in a trap or something. It's like you got
See,
a wolf looking at a fox in a bear trap, and
yeah,
that wolf's like, "Hmm." And that's the way he's like kind of studying, like he's patient. He's not as brutal as some of the other performances, but he's very
mm,
calculating. He'll just stand there and like watch a while.
yeah,
Okay. And then he'll go in for the kill. Like he added personality to
yeah.
Jason. That one thing about Kane Hodder,
He did.
which is why they used him for that Friday the 13th video game. He did all the mocap because he is Jason.
Yeah,
But some films are a little misaligned, but what he did great with what he was handed.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like you were talking about the head tilt. One thing I liked was the kind of like the deep breath, right? Like, it
Yeah.
was like, here we go, so he added some mannerisms and this, and those are the types of things that like, when you get the right person for the role, you get that, right? Like, in the
Mhm.
past, I don't want to like rag on stuntmen because ultimately Kane was a stuntman. But like, you get a stuntman to just do the job. And Kane was, took his opportunity to really, really make it his own. And he did. Like if you were to just ask if people who've watched the Friday the 13th to just say, do your best Jason imitation, I bet you they would do something that mimics the mannerisms
Mhm.
of Kane Hodder versus
Yeah.
any of the other Jasons, and that's a testament to, again, where we talk about timing where the movies weren't the greatest, but maybe the timing where the pop culture was just, like, peaking for those types of films, and maybe it
Yeah.
just kind of, worked that way.
Like he went on the Arsenio. He was like probably other than like Robert Englund, one of the first horror villains to go on a talk show. Like he went on Arsenio
Yeah,
Hall as Jason and never said a word. Like he
yeah,
stayed in character. And one story I love about Kane is he was talking about in Crystal Lake Memories, they're talking about Jason Takes Manhattan on Times Square. And he's like, he just kind of stood there and took it in. He's like, we were certain now this is the 90s, and he's like, Times Square was just packed with screaming fans.
mhm, yeah,
Knowing who they you don't need to have seen the movies, but you knew who that was.
yeah,
You know
for
who
sure.
and that was because and just the essence that he brought the character really speaks a lot.
Yeah. And listen, he was on Arsenio Hall and he was just a mute Jason, but even on that, his timing and his mannerisms, timing
Yep,
sounds kind of weird, but like they were bang on. If anybody
yep,
hasn't seen it, you got to go back and see it. And the other thing about that, to keep in perspective, is the time that was 1989 and stuff like that wasn't really done very often. Like you didn't
mhm.
see these types of gimmicky things on talk shows and stuff like that. Seeing Jason appear on a talk show was just it was mind blowing. If you could honestly, like I know people say mind blowing a lot. It was mind blowing because it came out of nowhere. It was just like,
Mhm.
what? This is amazing. And it ended up being such a great moment. And I was happy for Kane on that. Um, the other thing with Kane Hodder is because of his posture, because of his stature and his height or whatever, his head shape, I don't you always will know when it's him. Like, that's one thing I'll
Mhm.
say, like, I feel, maybe there's a, part in part 9, we talked about it, he looked a little bloated and chunky. That
That's the
was
one
very
where I don't recognize him as much.
yeah, yeah, that was the one that was a little bit different, but, 7, 8, and then, Jason X, like, you see Jason standing there, that wide stance, you know it's Kane.
Yeah. Like if
You
you just showed a silhouette of a Jason from any movie, just like a black silhouette, just the movement, you can pick out which one is Kane Hodder.
yeah,
If you
100%.
just saw the silhouette movement, it just there's distinct ways that Kane moved that was specific. He made it his own.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, I just love the fact that, Friday fans listen, I was a little envious that there was always that, one guy that played Freddy,
Mhm.
and it always kind of bugged me when I was a kid that there wasn't like a Jason, like an actor that played Jason. So
Yeah.
Kane came around, righted that wrong. And just, like I said, the fact that he just loved being Jason,
Yeah, he had
was
fun.
so cool, right? Like, it wasn't, "Hey, yeah, I was in that movie and, whatever. You
Mhm.
gotta collect a paycheck and stuff like that," which, some have said in the past, but, um, so kudos to Kane on that. I will say this, I will say one thing. There's one quote of Kane Hodder's that really, really bugs me, though. And I don't want to come on this show and piss off anybody, especially Kane Hodder. But there was one line where he said, I think it was in one of the scripts, and I'm maybe paraphrasing, but like he said there was a call for him to kick a dog, and he
Mhm.
refused to do it because Jason wouldn't kick a dog. And listen, I have no problem. I love animals. I'm not going that, but that one bugs me because I'm like, man, it seems like Michael Myers kills a dog in every single film. And I'm
He's always
like,
eating dogs.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, crap, man. If if I'm defending Jason as being the baddest in the horror world, and he won't touch a dog, and like I said, Michael Myers goes out looking for dogs, man. It's like, I think there's I forgot what movie. I think he killed two. Anyways, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I definitely know that Michael Myers has a canine body count, and so that's my one thing. I'm like, no, no, no. I want Jason all in, man. He no mercy, but we'll let him have his
That's funny.
opinion
I
on
like that
that.
one.
Sorry.
Wouldn't kick remember that. I remember that too.
Yeah.
Jason wouldn't kick a dog.
Hey, he could. That's his opinion, so he's entitled to
Yep.
it for sure. Um. Yeah. So I mean, the movies. A New Blood is probably like what, like an average film. Like you might want to like it a lot more because of the way he looks in it.
Mhm.
You
Sure.
know, part 8, I think we've talked about it, is very low out of the 12 films, right at the bottom. And only, beaten by what came next, which was Jason Goes to Hell.
Right.
And then we have Jason X, which definitely has entertainment value, has Uber Jason, which is really cool. It's a different
Yes.
perspective. But at the end of the day, that 4-pack is not what you would show someone who says, "Hey, what's this Friday the 13th
Yeah.
series about?" You would not.
Or what's a good Friday the 13th film? Most
it,
people aren't gonna pick that little section.
it would take you a while to get to a Kane film.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It would take you a while for you to say, okay, and now this one. And that's the unfortunate thing. He just never had the script or the right movie for his
Mhm.
performance. But at the end of the day, at least he was in those movies to make them something special and
Yeah.
memorable.
And he's still honored for them.
For sure, for sure. So we'll jump to Freddy versus Jason, which it was very unceremonious. It was out of left field that Kane Hodder didn't play Jason in this film. I think everybody just thought he was a shoe-in and it was just an automatic. And Hollywood, baby. Hollywood says no.
Yeah.
And in this case, the role went to Ken Kirzinger, who by all accounts seems like a great guy. I was
Mhm.
just never big on his stature. I thought he was a little lanky and a little bit too
Mhm.
tall. You?
Yeah, for me, like, my little notes here, like, we all know Jason killed him in part 8. He's the chef that gets thrown across the diner. But to me, like, 'cause he was a stuntman. To me, I think he moved clumsily, and like he had like these platform boots on. He was too like much like Frankenstein. To me,
Yeah.
he moved like Frankenstein in the film. Like when he's going through the cornfield, he's very slow and methodical. Kane, I'm gonna go back to him. He was like running, and other guys are bursting through doors and stuff. He moved so slow, like even the fight with Freddy. It's
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
he to me he was very clumsy and like Frankenstein. It's like Ken
yeah.
just watch Frankenstein, iconic villain. But I don't want my Jason to be Frankenstein, and that's kind of what I feel like we got.
Yeah. Well, and he was the Frankenstein caricature. It's kind of the same thing with Frankenstein. Like the 1931 Frankenstein with Boris Karloff, like Frankenstein moved frantically, like he was like freaked out and he was like, and,
Mhm.
and then over the years he became this like clumsy,
Yeah.
very, very like slow oaf, right? That wasn't the original Frankenstein. And that's kind of sometimes the way Jason it seems in that film, right? Like it's
Mhm.
just like a caricature of, okay, well, Freddy's smaller, so he's faster, so we got to make Jason taller and bigger and
Yeah.
slower, and it just like it kind of got a little comic book like, if I don't know, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah. To me, he moved slow. It was just too slow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't envy him. He suffered like, a backlash with that, with just getting a role. That's not nothing against
Mhm.
him. He's just trying to get roles in Hollywood and he got one. But it didn't go over well. I always wonder what the hell the backlash would be in the days of social media, like nowadays, if like if he would
Let's
be
say they replaced Jigsaw.
yeah, yeah.
Like if they replaced Jigsaw with somebody like with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's like Tobin Bell for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder nowadays how hard of a decision that would have been to stick by, because Kane's got his fans. He's all
Yeah.
over people's arms and chests and legs and stuff like that for being the Jason. But yeah, again, so not big on the portrayal of Jason or the look of Jason in Freddy
Mhm.
versus Jason. We both kind of agree on that, which, is time to move on.
Yep.
So we'll bring it back. One of the most fun uh, stories in the world of Jason actors is part two. Um,
Got 2.
yeah. So, I mean, so in part two, Warrington Gillette is credited as Jason.
Mhm.
And uh, as many Friday the 13th fans know, Steve Dash played Jason in most of the film and was not afraid to let everybody know this. And if you could see Steve Dash, I mean, rest in peace. If you if you search Steve Dash at, like, some of these festivals or doing some interviews, just a good storyteller and just a fun guy to listen
Mhm.
to. He does not pull punches. He, did not like Gillette uh, getting credit for being Jason at
Mhm.
all. He basically, as the story goes by, told by Steve, was that he was, seeing him go to all these festivals and cons, and he's like, wait a second, I played him. And that's when the confusion started. Um, I've heard Steve Dash's story a lot. I have not heard a rebuttal from
Mhm.
Warrington Gillette too much, whether it's just, taking the high road or not having an argument. But let me just kind of break down the gist of what it is. So, Warrington Gillette, it's his face when he busts through the window and
Yep.
and grabs Ginny. It's all him, and apparently that was very, very early into the shoot, and there was an injury in that scene. He was not, um, uh, he didn't kind of roll with the punches too well from what I heard, and was let go. Um and then they brought in Steve Dash, who played Jason, in all of the scenes with the sack on the head. So that's the most common,
Mhm.
and from what I could tell, the story that holds the most weight. And so, two actors that played Jason in part two, not on purpose, but Warrington Gillette was more of an actor. I think he was up for the role of Paul, if I remember correctly,
Oh,
and didn't get it. Got the role of Jason, and didn't last too long. He wasn't a stuntman, so they brought in a stuntman to finish off Jason. That's the story of the actors as I know it. And what was your take on part two, Jason?
so I'll first talk about Warrington.
Yeah.
Warrington, he does the final scene. He jumps through the window. You can see why he has the sack. It was a great scene, done in slow motion, but there's not much else to go on as far as the performance. He did a great jump scare. So like him taking full credit, kind of a little wacky in my opinion. I mean, it was like your first look at his face,
Hmm.
but there's just not much to go on as far as saying I like the way he portrayed Jason because it was one scene. Now about Steve Dash, to me, and I put in my notes, I'm like he was nimble and clumsy at the same time.
Hmm.
Well, and what I mean, like I think he looked great with the sack on. He was a stunt man. This Jason, the way he portrayed him was like young and inexperienced. But if you think about it, Jason really does learn fast because he's like inexperienced in part two.
Yeah.
Did in 3, 4, which is technically the same weekend, just
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah.
But he played him like a young man, not like a seasoned killer.
Hmm.
And I like that. It was like there was some not naivete, but like some he played him more like a man than a monster, which in some ways can be more scary because you
Hmm.
can actually that's somebody who can legit attack you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the big towering Kane Hodder Jason, little comical in a way because it's over exaggerated, but Steve Dash, his Jason could be somebody walking down the street right now with the hood over their head.
Hmm.
So he played it more like a man and a monster. That still to me can be kind of scary in a way. He was young, inexperienced. So I think he played him. Steve Dash really knew the character well.
Hmm.
You're getting revenge for your mom. You're angry. Your adrenaline's pumping, so you're going to be a little sloppy. You're going to be a little clumsy because your adrenaline's pumping. You're not as methodical. You just want to, it's just like mayhem.
Hmm.
That's the way he played him. So I do love Steve Dash's performance.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like I said, just a colorful personality, who's no longer with us, but um, definitely reclaimed his right
Mhm.
to say he was Jason in part two. Um, but there was two, and one of the reasons was again, I said Hollywood, baby. When Warrington was signed on for the film and given the credit, there's a lot of legal stuff, especially if you've shot and you have them in there and you have
Mhm.
face showing and stuff like that. It was not an easy thing to do. So Steve Dash doesn't even really get a credit. I think gets a buried credit in the film, maybe a stunt coordinator or something like that, because they couldn't completely replace Warrington Gillette at that particular point in time.
Mhm.
They were too deep into the production. So it's a legal thing too, right? It becomes a little bit convoluted that way. But at the same time, you had two guys going out there talking about their experiences. Jason, no, like I never had an issue with Warrington Gillette. I think his face
No.
looked perfect when it was all
Mhm.
mutilated. No, again, that's not a dig on him. I thought it was it was a great look for Jason, and yeah, I agree with you. Part two, like I love that, like growing pains kind of Jason. It was
Mhm.
kind of it was fun. All right, my friend. Well, let's move on. Let's go to part five. Let's go to part five. Let's jump around to
Oh,
part five.
Tom.
So part five was was polarizing in so many ways. But we had two Jasons in this one as well, but that played into the storyline. We had, of course, we had Dick Wieland as Roy Jason and Tom Morga as Jason in the flashbacks, as well as a lot of the stunt work as well. I don't know. What's your comments on five?
like 5, I still enjoy as a film, but if you've seen the first, like if you watched let's say you're gonna doing a marathon with somebody who's never seen these films before, get through the first 4, they're getting a good feel for who Jason is now.
Hmm.
Put on number 5, just tell them, just accept the fact that Jason's back.
Yeah.
Expend disbelief, he's back. You're gonna watch that film like something's off. Just the way he's moving is
Hmm.
totally different. It's like more stiff, more unsure, like not that unkillable like menace that he was. It's just kind of like more methodical in a
Yeah.
way, like more cautious, a little awkward. So just something first time you're watching, like that's not the guy. Cause like,
Yeah.
yeah, the size difference. He's definitely not as big.
Yeah.
You know, he was smaller, but I still like the way he played him. I
Yeah.
think the kills were brutal. Some really good kills. There was, you can tell there was emotion in those kills because he was getting revenge for his son getting killed. Spoiler. So there was emotion in those kills. It wasn't our Jason that we already had known to come and love
Yeah.
by then.
Yeah.
So not knocking him, but it was something different. But I'm not gonna poo poo on it because it wasn't Jason Voorhees.
For sure. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of hard to even just delve into this one a little bit because of what we know. It's just it wasn't Jason, and but the shots, those visions that Tommy had, where Jason's there, staying with the axe all bloody. I mean, they look great, and that's Tom, and yeah, I think there's some brilliant shots in that film. Um, and I think maybe a couple of more flashbacks would have been really, really cool because he did look so cool and menacing. And as far as Roy, what I never thought of Uncle Pete until I was kind of like just thinking about this, and maybe like I'm completely out to lunch on this, but um, it was called A New Beginning, right?
Mhm,
And a lot of that is to do with the fact that it's not Jason. Then Jason died. This is a new beginning.
mhm.
Self-explanatory. I was thinking about it. I was like, Roy and his son is literally like Pamela and her son.
I have thought about, yeah.
I was
It's
just like,
still a parent
yeah, it
revenge
was the
story.
same storyline, just a different sex in the parent. And seeing being there working kind of adjacent to where the murder happened and everything like that. And I don't know if I'm just slow on the uptake, as the kids say back in like 1977. I don't know if I was just slow to come to realize that, but I was just like, God, they could have done a series after that with Roy. Like they could have
Mhm.
launched Roy
And and if
as
you
the new
think
Jason.
about it, the podcast namesake Crazy Ralph did say it's got a death curse.
Yeah,
So maybe there is something to that. Maybe there
exactly.
is some type of curse because both kids were special needs,
Yeah,
and it looked presumably two single parents.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just
A bully,
maybe Crazy
or
Ralph. There's some
bullies, they were making love while but Jason, there was always the story that he was being bullied at camp and,
Yep.
just complete neglect. And it was the retelling of Friday the 13th, but in front of your face. And I didn't realize it until like 3 days ago when I'm prepping for this show.
So if you let's say you took out the Tommy Jarvis, this is a totally off the cuff. Let's say you took out the Tommy Jarvis parts of A New Beginning. Could you call it a remake
Yeah. I
or
mean,
like a
no,
reboot or a
a
reimaging?
remake might be a little bit
Yeah, like
steep.
a reimaging, a reboot.
Yeah, definitely a reboot. I mean, you could go that
Mhm.
way if that was even around back then.
Okay, reboot. Yeah, reboot more than
I
remake.
don't know if that phraseology was around back then. You could probably say it was a reboot. Yeah, you take Tommy out of it, and we've talked about this on a different podcast. Like, as much as we want to love Tommy, he was really expendable in that film. The
Yeah,
way they kind of wrote him, but
he's
yeah,
the
that's a good.
forgettable Tommy. It's
Yeah,
Tom Matthews and Corey Feldman. I
yeah.
don't remember the middle guy's name.
Yeah. No, I know. I hear you. It was but that's a great question. I don't know if I would call that a remake.
Yeah.
It would be a remake but like a stretch, like, real
Let us know in the
stretch.
comments what you guys think
Yeah.
about that theory.
Yeah, and let me know and be honest, was like did you ever kind of draw the parallel that Roy and Pamela were kind of in the same boat and fighting the same battle. I don't know. Anyways, so we kind of didn't really talk about the acting in that one, but there really wasn't a heck of a lot. What about the original Jason, Ari Lehman? So
Ari?
this guy, God love him. He's another one like Kane, really, not only embraces it, but like just, dives in head first. No pun intended. Uh small, sample size for him as Jason, but effective. And he was able to really parlay that into something special for himself, and has his own band, First Jason. And he was the first Jason. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about, but I'd be remiss if we didn't.
Yeah, like again, Kid Jason, he looks scary. One of the greatest jump scares in horror. Like again, we've all seen it numerous times, but
Mhm.
put yourself in 1980 in the theater watching this new horror movie called Friday the 13th. You're sitting there, okay, cool, the movie's over. We don't inundate you with jump like nowadays. You expect jump scares. You're
Yeah.
waiting for it. But back then, beautiful Crystal Lake, she's got her finger in the water, and then you just get hit. Bam. I can imagine people jumping out of their skin, not expecting that at all. You got this horrific looking kid pulling her into the lake right after you think she's safe. So that ending messes with your safety.
Hmm.
And we have Ari to thank for it because he did a great job. Looks scary. Doesn't really say much. Just reaches an arm up and pulls
Yeah.
her down, and that's it. And he's been able to make a career on it, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for him. But again, there's not really a heck of a lot to talk about. We won't talk about the little boy in part 8 that was supposed to be Jason, but was, anyways,
The
we're not
kid in
gonna.
his underwear in the sewer.
Yeah. And then, there's that. And then the flash. Anyways, yeah, we won't go to part 8. Uh, for, for as much as we can, we'll stay away from part 8. But let's talk part 6, which is,
Yep.
oftentimes talked about as your favorite. And,
Yep.
this is, probably one of the biggest built Jasons, CJ Graham. But Dan Bradley was, I don't know, was he credited? But he played Jason in the cemetery scene,
Oh
in
yeah.
the opening cemetery scene. He was Jason, and he was replaced by CJ based on stature. They didn't. It's not that they didn't like him per se. There's nothing wrong with Dan, but they I guess saw CJ, and they wanted that size. They wanted that frame. And CJ is the dawn of zombie Jason. It
Mhm.
started in part 6 where he was resurrected like Frankenstein, and became a very, very brisk walking Jason. And I remember
Mhm.
okay, so when I was a kid, and we talk about Jason, it was always like Jason doesn't run. Jason doesn't run. Even though he ran in the early ones, CJ Graham he kind of doesn't really run. And it was always a thing. He doesn't run. He doesn't have to because he's so fast.
Mhm.
He tracks you down. And this is the kid's mentality in the schoolyard, right? CJ Graham's strut was pretty powerful, man.
Mhm.
That guy had a walk on him. He did. It was like a walk run. And yeah, so he kind of introduced that I'm not running. And that kind of took, right? Jason really, until part of the remake, really never ran again.
Mhm. So, like you said, zombie Jason. This is the scariest version yet. That cemetery scene. His face is mangled. He comes back to life. Like, oh shit. Like we just done effed up. Like I said, like you said, he moved differently. I love that scene with the paintball team, and you just hear thump, 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 and he's just go use the shot of his legs, like he's like just floating, he's fast,
Hmm.
but he's not running. Like previous
Yeah.
ones they're running, like Richard Brooker, you see him running.
Yeah.
DJ Graham's not running like he was towering. This guy was as a tank. He was like the juggernaut, just moving forward. You weren't going to stop him. Now with I think the way CJ Graham did the kills, they were more personal
Hmm.
because he's pissed that he got killed Now he's back to life. So whether he's pissed he got resurrected, he got pissed that he was killed in the first place. Now these kills are personal because if you like the first four, they were kind of like in his area. It's like, okay, I'm just want to clean this out. But now it's like, no, you done pissed me off. You know,
Yeah.
FAFO was what CJ Graham Jason said. FAFO, and he's just into just like clear everything in his path going straight back to Crystal Lake. So just he was just more his kills were
Yeah.
more personal the way he performed. That's the interesting with all these Jasons. We all love these films, but everybody performed it just a little bit differently.
Yeah. No, for
It's
sure.
just weird if you think
For
about it.
sure. Actually, it's funny because you were talking about the head tilt with Kane, but CJ was, when he kind of first gets to the camp, he kind of does that. He did the head tilt as
Yep.
well. And this was like brute force Jason, right? Like, throwing a guy and ripping off his arm, crushing
Into some
skulls
holy
with your head.
face.
Now he did that in part 3, but yeah. So, this is where, punching a hole through someone. This really upped the ante in a Friday the 13th film. All of a sudden, as much as he was hard to kill before, there was still something man about him. All of a
Mhm.
sudden now you don't know what it is. And that was in the performance because again, like I said, he was like, well, like we've talked about, extremely fast, but never ran. Seemed very
He didn't
cool,
need to be
calm.
careful anymore because he was unkillable, so it's not like he needed to be careful of
Yeah,
injuries. Now you can just take a bullet.
exactly. And it was actually the first Friday the 13th where almost from beginning to end, you see Jason. Like, well, obviously one, we'll take that one out. But part 2, until the end, you don't see him a lot. Same thing with part 3 until he
Yeah,
gets
they're
the
kinda
mask.
off-camera kills or
Here
just
and there, yeah, like part 4, same thing. Part 6, Jason was almost the star of this film. Like, they showed him walking, they showed him heading to camp. Like, they showed him a
and I
lot.
just thought you see a lot of the kills in the daylight during part 6. You don't
Mhm.
see that a lot in other films. There was a lot of kills. Most
Yeah.
horror movies, people only die at night. It was
Yeah.
during the day, and he just mowed through that entire, like, paintball team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought CJ did a great job. And we talked about the looks before, how I feel like I felt he was just a little too neat and tucked in. I would have liked
Mhm.
to have seen him more rugged. But he was definitely a tall son of a gun and it showed. Um, but yeah, I liked his performance. I liked part 6. I thought he was great for it. And it's one of those that like that's the type of movie that you kind of not that you didn't want CJ in it, but that's the kind of movie you wish Kane had, right? You wish he had that one in his legacy, and
That is the one that I wish he had done. I would love to see what
right,
Kane could have done with part 6.
yeah, and but anyways, it's can't go back now, can we?
Nope.
However, we are going to go back. We're going to go back to part 3. Dr. Richard Brooker. He's actually not a doctor. I apologize for that, but Richard Brooker had the physique I liked the most in Jason. There was something tall and lanky about him, but not too lanky where it looked awkward. He had the hunchback, but it wasn't like Quasimodo or anything like that. I love the makeup design that they did on him, and both makeup designs that they did on him. But ultimately, this is where he gets the mask, um and there's 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 a couple of things. I'll let you go. I'll let you talk
Mhm.
about Richard Brooker before I kind of just dive into a couple of things, but have at it.
Yeah, so, like I put in my notes, like, he was the first to wear the mask, and if you think about it, he's the not too much about the look, but he started a look that lasted, like, 8 to 9 movies. The green
Yeah.
shirt, and the blue/tan pants.
Yeah.
I think everybody kinda did a little bit the way Richard Brooker he was the first Jason in the mask and everything, and he kinda did a little he would do, like, the head tilt. He also showed he was the first person to have to show emotion and anger
Hmm.
without your face.
Yeah.
With that because even in, part 2, they would focus on the eye. Over here, you really couldn't see his eyes.
Yeah.
So he was the first one to try and show all that emotion, and I think he did a good job. He would, like, almost do, like, the Kane Hodder, like, kinda shrug his shoulders and, like, do a little huff and like not like a
Yeah.
huff and a puff, but show that he's angry. Like when he's chasing, he's like almost like Mr. Hyde. He's like frantic and
Yeah.
feverish. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got to get the kills. And I put like he's more confident now. I
Yeah.
think after he
Com
survived number 2,
yes.
now Jason, he's more confident. Like, oh, I just got, I survived this machete chopping through my shoulder and everything. He's like, okay, maybe I got something here.
Mhm.
So I think Richard gave Jason more confidence. Big jump from number 2 to 3, just in his confidence and maturity. Like you would think it was a year later, the way he
Yeah.
performed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the same day, but you would think it was a year later, the way Jason matured in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's how Richard Brooker interpreted the character.
Yeah. And and all they had to do at the beginning of part 3 was put 5 years later and just like and that's it. Like they didn't even have to really think too hard on this or 2 years later, 2 years later. Sure.
The
2
body
years
could have
later.
been missing by the time the paramedics got there. You
Mm,
just see the machete lying in the sand and the
yeah.
hay. Bam.
Yeah, 2 years later, it gives you that time for that flashback with Chris where she encounters him in the woods. Gives you
Mhm.
that time to have that. Man,
Yes.
anyways, just simple little decisions that would have made things better. You know what I liked about Richard Brooker was that he kind of embodied a lot. Like, in the beginning, he's stealth. He's trying, like, where he gets his outfit, like, in the clothes line there. Then there's the point where there's a lot of people kind of laugh about this one where he's just kind of sauntering out with the crossbow there to
Oh,
fire
yeah.
it into. He just got, and then he just chucks it, just kind of like it's a very out of character thing. I don't know what the direction was on that one, but it's funny. But then, like I said, that chase with Chris, like where he's running down the hill, he looks like he's gonna lose his balance and stuff like
Yes,
that, and
exactly, yeah,
and I
that's what I was
love
talking
that,
about,
like.
how he's kinda like
Yeah, like, but he's like determined, and even when he's limping and he's running and like, you see him with the van and stuff like that, just, it was real and it was freaky. Like that was a real man. That was a real man coming for you. And that was like, I feel like he was like, to me, the freakiest in that regard because there was some relatability to a lot of that.
and I think when you said freaky, like a scene like you go, "Holy crap," is like when she hits him in the head with the axe.
Yeah.
Instinct would be, "Let me get this out of my head," but no, he's going like that, like, "You
Yeah.
son of a bitch."
Yeah.
That does that little freak, so I see what you're saying. He added that, like, oh, like, that unsettlingness, like, instinct would be like, "Take it out," but he's like, "No, you."
No, he's dying at that time. I guess he's not thinking straight. But I love that. I love the like when he gets hit. Like I love that. Like
Yep.
it was like that's what you miss in the later Jasons. I feel like unfortunately, is that human element that really makes it. And then even when he's like at the window with he's unmasked and he's running out and stuff like that. There's just a lot of just realism to that. Like there's frantic,
Mhm.
there's calm, there's like, out of control. There's, it just, I loved it. The great performance by Richard Brooker. Um, and if we're going to talk about great performances, we move on to Ted White,
Mhm.
who Ted White at first did not love the fact that he was associated with Friday the 13th. He was an actor and he has been in a lot of stuff. You've seen him in stuff. You just probably don't even realize it, but he was an actor who was the oldest performer to play Jason. But in saying he is an actor and not a stuntman, man, it showed. Like I thought the part for Jason was a performance. I thought like he looked pissed, he looked angry, he looked
Mhm.
vengeful.
That's exactly
It
what I have.
all came out, and it wasn't with head tilts or breathing. And all due respect, we said we love those things about Kane and stuff like that, but it was just all subtle and just just violent. And
Mhm.
I absolutely love the performance of Ted White. It's my favorite Friday the 13th Jason performance. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about what he did for
Yeah.
that part. And so I
Yeah.
will say,
Just like you said, like, I put down, like, more aggressive this time around. Like, he played the role like they called it the final chapter. So he played that role. This is my last stand. I'm gonna just when he burst through that door, top
Yeah.
5 scene in the entire franchise. Top 5 segment in the entire franchise. When he and the door just explodes into toothpicks, and he is so pissed off.
I know.
Like
I
you
know.
said, he is just so angry. And even the kills are angry.
Yep.
Like when he kills my boy Jim, the winner of Star Search. He puts that corkscrew in his hand and just that cleaver. It's just angry.
Yep.
When he kills the twin, just yanking her out. He is, like you said, he is so pissed off.
Well,
It's the final chapter. You knew this Jason was going to be their last stand. You don't know how they would kill him off, but he played it like I'm going out with a bang, and he
yeah.
sure did.
Even when he took that machete shot from Trish in the chest, he's just, like, he's just like, get out of here. Like, and then when he gets the machete in the head, and he's just like groaning, and just like, it's just the performance was unbelievable.
Yeah. I think there's one
Like,
where she throws something at him and hits the wall. He looks like, "You stupid bitch."
yeah,
It's just like he's
yeah.
super pissed.
Yeah, no, kudos to Ted White. He did come around after, and I guess realizing when all the fans he had, and how meaningful, as a lot of them do, in the beginning they kind of want to make sure that they proceed with their careers, especially a lot of the young actors. But Ted White was just an unbelievable performer in the role
I
of
think he said he
Jason.
really didn't care for Corey Feldman. So, like, one of
Yeah,
the interviews, he's like, "Yeah, I didn't like that little shit." So he's like, sometimes a lot of that anger, like, he really didn't get along with the kids on set, from my
yeah,
understanding, because he was like always in character. He's like, I didn't want to get along with them because I don't want them, like, when I'm doing a scene, I don't want them to think, oh, there's Ted, who I was just at craft services having a cup of coffee.
yeah.
He's like, no, I wanted them to, like, be afraid of me the entire time. And there's that psychology
Yeah,
actor in him that he really brought into that character.
a form of method acting, obviously, and
Yep.
but there is that famous story where he came to the defense of Judy Aronson when she was in the water too long, and
Yes.
so he was beloved. Like, you see all the pictures after at all these cons and stuff, and everybody just loved him. So, like, he yeah, I loved Ted White. I think he was just fantastic as Jason, and I've said this many times. He was my favorite performer as Jason. My favorite look of Jason was part 3. What was your favorite performer as Jason?
It's gonna
I
be
put
the
you on the
next one.
spot. Okay, think
It's
about
gonna
it.
be
Think about it. Think about it for a sec.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about the remake and Derek Mears, who I thought did a fantastic job. Again, I didn't love the remake too much, but I loved his performance as Jason. It was
Mhm.
menacing. It was big. It was tall. He looked he had a resemblance to the former captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matt Sundin, which
Yep.
speaks to me personally. But I thought he just had this awesome aggression and stature. It worked. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Derek?
Well, you asked that question, and it might be controversial, but Derek Mears is my favorite performance of Jason because, to me, he's the most frightening out of all of them because he's clever. This guy's a hunter. He sets up traps. He's got, like, early warning systems in his little shack. So, like, this is a clever Jason. That's the way Derek performed, because he was in Hatchet and he played a SWAT officer. So he knows how to play, like, these methodical characters, and, like, and
Hmm.
he was menacing, like, in the I think it was, like, a shot on the trailer. He's running at that guy, like, and again, you just hear thump, 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 thump fast, and the screen cuts away.
Yeah.
Then when you watch the movie, the guy's got the machete in his head, puts his boot on it, just yanks it out.
Yeah.
This is another angry
Yeah.
Jason, but he kills somebody with a bow and arrow. This is like hunter, backwoods, survivalist Jason. To me, I think he's the most dangerous Jason because
Yeah.
of the
Hard to argue.
traps and the whatnot. He's got the Derek Mears has got the size, but I feel like if you just stood off his little weed farm, he'd leave you alone. Like, I think he just wants to be like a recluse. He's
Yeah.
not gonna go out looking for trouble because kids are having sex. They're like, no, you're in my lake. Get the duck out of Fodge, and I'll leave you guys alone. To me, he was a combination of all the best parts of the previous actors. Big, menacing, fast, nimble, agile, calculating, clever, scary, fast. Just to me, he was like the best of all the worlds. So yeah, Derek Mears, as you can tell,
Can you
is my
explain it a
favorite.
little bit better? That was
Sorry, boss.
tell me, just use a few more adjectives.
Do
All right.
do it with more passion there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. I love it. I'm glad that he got some love because, like, again, I'm not biggest fan of that film, but I thought he was great in it. All right, so thanks to Slick and Cabin 6, I got all the Jasons in their age when they portrayed
Oh.
so the youngest was Ari Lehman at 15.
Yeah.
The second youngest was Warrington Gillette, 21. So let's give the guys like a break, Steve Dash. Like, he was young and he was like, trying to figure things out on set. This was kind of surprising. Richard Brooker, 28. Then CJ Graham was 30 years old. And then Kane Hodder was 33 in part 7, 34 in part 8. Then 37, Derek Mears. And Steve Dash, both were 37. Then Kane Hodder in Jason Goes to Hell was 38. Dick Wieland was 40 as Roy. Ken Kirzinger was 44. And then we have 1, 2, 3. All right, the oldest performers for Jason. Tom Morga, 44 in part 5. Kane Hodder, 46 in 2001. And the oldest was Dr. Ted White. I'm making every Jason that I like a doctor. Dr. Ted White was 58 and lived a beautifully long life, so he was able to enjoy all his praise and accolades from his fans. And yeah, so that's the Jasons, my friend. Those are the guys that played them and the guys that we love and the stories that we can't get enough of. And yeah, that's about all I got to say.
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below what you think. Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? If you had to build your favorite, like, what are your favorite parts of Jason? Do you like the methodical? Do you like the clever? Do you like brute force? Do you like the hunter? Because we all like different Jasons for different reasons. No one's right, no one's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear what do you love about Jason? What do you not like about Jason? Just like you've heard Jason and I talk for the last 50 somewhat minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's always, everybody's got a lot of opinions. Obviously, Kane is a fan favorite, but there's a lot of other opinions out there that are worth listening to. And maybe someone that, like Uncle Pete said, maybe someone that you didn't really like as Jason, that, you felt just took it in a turn that you didn't want. Oh, we'll see. That being said, I think that's a wrap on this show. Once again, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to love us and praise us. And we don't get it in our home lives. We need it in our YouTube lives. So no, please subscribe, share us, comment, engage on the Instagram. Oh my God, I almost sounded like an old person. It was just
on that interweb.
I got tongue tied. On Instagram, the Crazy Ralph podcast can be found under the horror/umbrella. So the horror/ just like the YouTube channel. Follow us there and engage in our posts. We want to hear what you have to say. It's part of the fun for us. I know we say that a lot, but it really is part of the fun for us. So,
100%.
Yeah. So Uncle Pete, any parting words?
Nope. Thanks for checking us out. Just stay safe, enjoy life, and go watch some more Friday the 13th movies, and we'll see you here next time.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Take care.